just talk a little bit about what the session is going to be about and what we were trying to do. And I know what Channel Country Ladies Day committee were trying to do with this. I mean, obviously, first of all, to hear from different women about their business journeys, because I think the more we can hear, and I know it's whatever we're doing, the more stories we can hear, practical stories of people like us who've been on a particular journey and can explain to us what's happened, what the ups and downs have been, how they've resolved that, and how they think about the way they go about their business. It's the best way to learn, is by hearing stories. That is absolutely, I mean, I fundamentally believe that. And so that's part of what we're doing tonight, is just sharing stories of that journey. The second part of tonight is obviously within those stories to specifically look at some of the issues that have arisen, quite linked to really the twin crises of both drought and the pandemic that we're now going through. Because obviously this has changed, these are significant life-changing, society-changing events. And the capacity to think about how you survive through that process, how you then, well, first of all, how you survive immediately, then how you work out how you survive going through a crisis, and then how you think about how you move out of that crisis, are things that everybody needs, both within their personal development, within their personal lives, and with their business and what it is that they're trying to achieve. The third issue that I want to raise tonight, and I hope comes out of the conversation, is something that's an issue that is very close to, I think, many people, many women's hearts, which is the thinking about the use of the word entrepreneur. And it's a conversation that Alanna and I often have about the use of this word, and a conversation I often have with governments and other people who use the word and how they use the word. And it's an issue that I find highly amusing in some senses, because my background is very much running a consultancy company that was working in the arts and creative sector. So the most entrepreneurial people that I've ever seen are those who are artists and who are working often in the arts, either practicing their art or in just generally in the creative sector themselves. And when you actually go back to thinking about the meaning of the word entrepreneur, and if you were to Google what the original use of the word is, it actually means somebody who puts on a musical theatre. And that's where the word came from. And I think what we've had, and in the history of the way the economies have moved and the way thinking has gone, we've got to a point at the moment in life, in society, where entrepreneur has begun to mean something very specific, which is usually it means a man, and usually it means a young man. And as Alanna said briefly before in a previous conversation, a young man wearing a black t-shirt. And that young man wearing a black t-shirt will be an entrepreneur because they've created this thing called a startup. Startup now being used as a noun rather than a verb in terms of talking about starting up a business, a startup. And what will that startup be? That startup is likely to be something to do with technology and digitization and a whole new world. And when they talk about it, nobody will probably know what they're talking about. And when they talk about, or other people talk about them, they're talking about building something that's going to be huge. It's going to be so big that it's going to make millions and millions of dollars. Who's it going to make millions of dollars for? We don't know. How many people it's going to employ? We don't know. But that young, usually man, is thinking about that, and everybody calls them an entrepreneur. And we then lose sight of where that word came from, how it was first used, and what entrepreneurialism actually means. And what I would ask you all to do after this is to Google the characteristics of an entrepreneur or the behaviors of an entrepreneur. And when you look at that list of what they are, you will find that they're talking about yourself or people that you know, and many, many women who are running businesses, and many women who are running businesses that are small businesses, that are successful businesses, and that are in rural and regional communities and not in inner city technology labs in the middle of Brisbane and Sydney and Melbourne. So I think, sorry, that's Cathy doing her bit for the evening to try and actually say it's a really important message that we try and get across all the time through WOW festivals and events and everything that we're doing, particularly now, post-COVID and everything that's happening. If we're going to rebuild the economy of Queensland, if we're going to, and Australia and the world, we have to build back better, and we have to think very seriously about what the nature of those businesses are going to be. And one of the really strong characteristics of those businesses are going to be local. And I think this is a really important thing that we all need to work together to try and bring this about. So that's my introduction to the session. That's my introduction to some of my passions. And I hope during the evening that I might get a chance, I will jump in if there are certain issues that come up that women want to talk about their business journey that I've experienced on my business journey, then I will jump in then. But that's the last you'll hear from me, because that's the rest of the evening is up to everybody on this call. And I'm going to start by going back to Alanna to talk in more detail about the work of Femeconomy, your journey, Alanna, as a businesswoman, and also what it is that you're doing right now that could be beneficial to the women who are on this call tonight.
So I guess, in terms of where Femeconomy started, so everyone in this session makes 85% of the purchase decisions in their home. So you guys all control where, the money is spent. And that really is the female economy and where Femeconomy started. So let me tell you a little bit about how amazing your purse power is. So the global consumer economy is valued at $35 trillion. So women's spending accounts for $28 trillion. So trillions, millions, gazillions, what does that mean? It actually means that it's bigger than the emerging economies of China and India put together twice over. So it's a huge amount that women already have in their hands. In 2016, my business partner and sister-in-law, Jade Collins, researched around 1,500 brands to see which brands actually had women in leadership. They don't just talk about having women in leadership. And it was against the criteria of at least 30% women on the board of directors or 50% female ownership. And at that time, of around 1,500 brands, 722 were what we called Femeconomy approved. Now it's over 850. But the reason we want female consumers to care about those female-owned businesses is because women-owned businesses are the ones creating women's economic security and financial freedom. They are the ones changing our systems and structures. They're having flexible workforces. And, if Alison was on the call tonight from Tambo Teddy's, I've seen how her business partner has had babies, still built the business. It's going greater and stronger than ever, having wonderful and economic impact for Tambo and a town that's gone through the drought, as well as now refugee and migrant communities through economic and employment, and that's again changing those systems and structures. So, women-owned businesses really impact gender equality. And next time you want to buy something, think of, who you know and who you want to support, because it's really, really important. Femeconomy is a tool to create a conversation around this, but you will know women in your network that you can support with your purse power. But pretty much as soon as we launched Femeconomy, we pivoted or adapted. And the reason we adapted is because, we talk to our members and our community. We really understand their path to leadership and their business. And they were saying to us, well, hang on, it's a bit, one-dimensional, just thinking of me as a female consumer. I'm also a woman in business, or a woman in corporate, or a woman in a regional area. How can I support other businesses through other, by trading with other women-owned businesses? So we've got lots of B2B brands as part of our network now, and we actually do facilitate them trading with each other, again, using that female economy to try and grow their business and impact gender equality. The feedback that's come from our rural and regional businesses is that they do have particular challenges. And I actually think, because they have experienced so many of these challenges already, in lots of ways, I think they're more equipped to deal with COVID than a lot of our city businesses. They've been through fire, flood, drought, you name it, and had to see the businesses through that time. So I think there's lots we can actually learn from rural and regional areas, and I think that needs to be amplified more in the Australian conversation. But some of the challenges, and feel free to put into the chat if you identify with any of these, it could be just the vast area you're trying to cover and having staff travel across that area. It could be lack of access to technology or networks or suppliers. It could be that you are juggling several jobs. So you could have a farm, you might your husband might have a business, you might have another business that you're involved in, plus childcare, plus. And so you've got all of these competing priorities while you're trying to work on this other business. We also find tall poppy syndrome in Australia really has an impact on women-owned businesses. We're told to build our personal brand and connect and get out there. But when we do, sometimes our immediate network, and that can be our family and even people we don't know, aren't supportive of us doing that. So, again, that's a real challenge for businesses. And I think one of the things that we do is really, with supporting rural and regional owned businesses, we have a program at the moment called the Economic Security for Women Connection Program. That is for Queensland-based businesses that are in very remote, drought-affected areas. So I'm sure many of you would be eligible for this program, which is completely funded by the Australian government. And it's a one-year program where we provide that really tailored support to you in whatever way you need it, around whatever you've got going on. And we also amplify your business to our national network. And the amplification is really important. One, so that we can learn from you, but two, because women are only 18% of quoted media sources when it comes to business. So like Cathy said before, we're actually not hearing and learning from those stories, and that's why sharing those stories is so important. So big focus for Femeconomy is on the large end of town, which is around the corporates and governments, and what are they doing to support women-owned businesses? How are they getting women-owned businesses as part of their supply chain? The reason we work on that is because it's another economic lever, but also women-owned businesses access less than 2% of the procurement market at the moment. And in Australia, almost 35% of businesses are female-owned. So again, massive gap, but a great opportunity for us to make a difference. I grew up in central Queensland, living as a daughter of two publicans. So I never lived in a house with my parents. And I was never there dreaming I'm going to create gender equality, in the world. But, I think you've just got to give something a go. If you're passionate about it and you know your why, then, well, why not? Why not try? Our business model keeps changing as well, Cathy. I think you can't necessarily stay on a concrete path, and COVID again has really shown that. You need to keep listening to your customers, providing value, and realising, making sure you're connected to your why around, what change you're trying to create. Growing up in a pub in central Queensland, you see lots of gender inequalities every day. I think about boys that go to the pub on a Friday night and they wouldn't be there the next day because they've committed suicide, and they felt like they were living up to this certain male stereotype and they couldn't talk about what was actually going on. And that's what I mean when gender equality for men it's interrelated. When women progress, then it takes some of that male breadwinner model away and the pressures of men having to conform to this certain stereotype. I think in my own family, I've seen the women in my family work extremely hard in business, and I think they haven't achieved economic security, even though they've worked just incredibly hard. And why is that? That doesn't seem fair. I also think I've been, in my career, been really lucky, working in arts and social housing and education. There's always been a really fantastic gender balance at the leadership level. I've always felt really, quite valued in organisations I've worked in, but talking to some of my friends, it wasn't like that.
So now I'd like to hand over to Louise to tell us a little bit more about her business journey before we open it up to other people. There you are, you're on. Unmute yourself, Louise.
I feel like I'm really at the other end of this stuff, that Alanna, well, I suppose I'm part of it, but I feel just like this tiny little fish in the ocean. And I said to Cathy earlier on, I'm just getting started using the term entrepreneur. So because, and now I'm going to use it, I'm going to be more determined to use it, because I think, we have to break those stereotypes down, and that entrepreneurs are everyone. It doesn't matter their age or sex or what they're doing. And so I'm really excited and feel quite, very empowered already. So if I can help someone else think, I want to start a business or do something that's or go try something, then that will make my night this evening. So I suppose I live in Buckhalden. I've been doing photography. I'm a normal person. I'm very disorganised. I have a husband and 2 girls, and I'm not sure how we get through. Some days I celebrate if we can have a week where no one's late. That's huge. That's bring out the champagne on a Friday. We just love where we live. We love Western Queensland and the opportunities it gives us. I've said for about 15 years now that I think the regions, we have a lot more opportunity than, for some of us anyway, that we'd ever get if we were living in the city. So my husband's been on council. We joined the Arts Council when I first moved here, and I used to project the movies, and we've started big events and that are now being handed on to other groups and running, and it's just, I think I wouldn't have a shop in the main street anywhere else other than Barkey probably. So I think regions give us lots of opportunity. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. I love the city as well, but I think this lifestyle, as far as 24/7 everyday living, this is the place to be, I think. I've as I said, my resume looks quite fickle because I like to challenge, and I kept sort of having a go at things. When I worked at the Department of Primary Industries many years ago, the departments were very different. There was lots of money back then. So I was an experimentalist, or a research assistant, a fancy name for a research assistant. And I'd get jobs in 3-month stints. And so we'd say, oh, yep, Louise is up. She's leaving back to Brisbane. No, and then a scientist would come and say, actually, Louise, can you come and help me do this? So, oh, yeah, okay, I'll go and do that. So I've done some really strange things to sheep and cattle. I used to know basically all the plants that grew in Western Queensland through various, avenues of work that I did. And then, moved to Barkey, was working for myself, always loved photography, and that grew. So then earlier this year, I had one of those sort of breakthrough epiphany moments when I stumbled across a thing called a multi-potentialite, which is someone who has, many passions, loves learning, and it was one of those things where one of those times you read something, you find something and you weep, getting the tissues, oh my God, just because you found yourself, a part of yourself. And I'm glad I found myself now that I'm 47, it would have been lovely to have found this about 20 years ago. But anyway, I found it now. Because I've always been referred to as a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, Oh, that's such a lovely, thanks very much. So I used to say master of adaptability. And when I found out about this thing called the multi-potentialite, it also had the full quote of that, which is, "Jack of all trades, master of none, oft times better than master of one." So that had me sobbing even more. I've had that quote just thrown at me ever since I left uni, and in a derogatory kind of condescending way, because I didn't have one thing that I was really passionate about, and I now realise that I do have the one thing. I mean, many of us want to help people, and so it's a matter of using those skills and that knowledge and that environment that I've got at that time to help people. So, and because my husband has always worked for Queensland Government, he works for the Regional Organisation of Councils now, his work's been quite fixed. So me working for myself has meant that I can, if he has a week off or he has to travel, then I can either go with him or I take the kids to Brisbane or something. So being self-employed has always been really high on my list of priorities, even though I often say I'm quitting and I'm going to go work at IGA. So that sort of really lit me up when I found those things, that it wasn't just me being fickle and jumping around. And Emily Wapnick, she has a lovely website called Putty Like, and she did a TED talk on being a multi-potentialite as well. She says, multi-potentialites don't leave when they're bored, don't leave when it gets hard, they leave when it gets boring. And when I look back, that's just me to a T. So this is what's happened with photography. I've been doing it for 15 years, have done everything from machinery parts to cattle to weddings to portraits to local tourism. So it's time for me to move on, and I really want to help all the people that I stumble across who have started incredible things. And a lot of it has been women who've taken a hobby and we've put it on social media, and it's just gone crazy. It's just blown out of all proportion, and they don't know what to do. So my goal at the moment is to help kind of accidental business people to just hold their hand, walk them through, can teach them how not to register, or how to register the right name for their business, because so my business is Flourish Resources & Co. 18 months ago, my husband and I started Buckled and Car Hire as well, because there was no hire cars here, and we were determined that we can't lose our plane that lands in Barkey 3 days a week. And I wanted to bring in people from the city, this was my cunning plan, to learn photography, because people spend thousands on cameras and they don't necessarily how to use them. So I thought, well, I can attract people out here, come and do a photography workshop. They can spend some money and go home having, a wonderful time. But they needed to land here first. So I definitely never had having a hire car business anywhere on my radar. But it's actually been flat out. We have 5 cars in our fleet now. And the only way I could have done that was we literally stumbled across a lady who has a hire car company because friends dragged us to Fraser Island. One of them had a hire car, and this lovely lady had been involved in Bush to the Beach and had kids from Longreach down to Rainbow Beach. And she just held my hand the whole way through. "Oh, love, this is what you do. Yeah, ring this guy." And so I couldn't have done that, without someone holding my hand. So that's what I'm thinking. Well, hopefully I can hold someone else's hand. But yes, hopefully I can help them register the right business name, because Buckled and Care Hire was a thing for a minute. Yes, I blame ASIC for that and registering the wrong business name. It was a spelling error. Anyway, it's sorted now. So for me, I suppose, I just want to help others, help bring some cash into our regional economies. There's lots of things we can have here, and we can have a go at really cheaply, and it doesn't have to be a really terrifying thing. So I suppose, for photography and COVID began the real trigger, or the kick in the bum that I needed to do what I'd been thinking about, was leaving the security of photography, that I knew what to do. I had, markets, and I was earning pretty good money. And so COVID's sort of been the trigger for me to do this new thing that I want to do. And I'm hoping that, it will be a lot of digital work like this, and that I can support other people through COVID and hopefully through a really good wet season.
Thank you so much, Louise. And I think one of the most interesting things there for me about what you talked about was the reasons why you set up a hire car business. And it wasn't because that you were passionate about cars and hire cars and everything about that people think about in terms of why you might be running that particular type of business. It's a particular means to an end, which is something, a passion that you've got, which is much bigger than cars and what they're doing and hiring cars to people. And it's to do with the pride you have in your community, the passion that you have about bringing people out to your community. And it's linked to another element of your business in terms of the customer, which is your photography.
Mm.
And I think when you begin to dissect sometimes the way in which women in particular, I believe this is, are entrepreneurial, is that the way that the thinking between many different things and many different ways of how you can make connections to what you could be doing, which makes that just the most terrific story. And also that what you've done. You mentioned COVID, and I'm going to leap back to Alanna because she didn't mention COVID, but you mentioned obviously the situation now and how you have taken what is a crisis and is a very adverse, problematic issue for many people and turned it into an opportunity. And I think that is another significant characteristic of an entrepreneur, is somebody who can actually look at something in that way and has the capacity to think laterally, think differently about something. And certainly the businesses that I'm seeing at the moment in my own sector, obviously, which is still very much linked to the arts and entertainment, which has been significantly impacted, obviously, by the current pandemic in particular. Those people who are going to make it through this are completely rethinking their business models and how they are going to achieve their vision in the future. And it might be completely different to the way they've done it in the past. And I think this is just, it's such and that includes those who are running significant concepts like museums, theatres, festivals. We're going to have to rethink what that all means in the future. And I think that is what you've just demonstrated there is a significant entrepreneurial characteristic. Alanna, just very quickly, Femeconomy and COVID. We didn't really touch on that, but just interesting from your business, what actually happened in the middle of March, and what have you done as subsequent to that?
To be honest, Cathy, there actually wasn't much of a change for us because we were already working flexibly, remotely, nationally, and many of the women-owned businesses in our network were. So COVID was an opportunity for some of them because they had business continuity, whereas, other organisations were completely imploding because, flexibility, remote working, how we think if staff aren't at their desk beside their manager, they must not be working. Also, regional businesses in local areas that have been there for 20, 30 years that have been trying to get business with, big mining companies or whatever it might be, agricultural companies, all of a sudden are the solution because, like you said, the local buyings really come into play because at the moment, every state is like its own country in Australia. So, there are opportunities through COVID. And I'm also seeing too that because there's so much change happening for everyone, people are using it as a way to create more change. So, the Make It Free childcare campaign that's coming out, just, I guess, how businesses are collaborating that they would never have collaborated before because they're trying to find an economic solution, but they're also trying to find a social solution to help the community. And I think if we can see business to continue to work in that way to help communities, then after this, hopefully we'll be a lot better off as a community, and we'll think about things differently. And it's just a shame that we need a global pandemic for some of these opportunities. But, you know, like Louise said, it's a time where you just can rethink, have to rethink, and, you know, go for that opportunity, because why not?
Thanks. Well, I'm going to start coming to everybody now on screen, but I'm going to really start first, because you've thrown up a question in the chat room, Christy. So Christy, maybe if you could just show yourself and put your mic on, that would be terrific, because obviously you're congratulating Louise on the work that she's done, but you say, so true to have someone to guide you through those early days. Now, you yourself are embarked on a significant new venture in New Zealand, and I just thought maybe you could just talk to us a little bit about that, and why you've actually mentioned that issue about someone to guide you through those early days, because that's probably something that a lot of people are thinking on tonight.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, thank you, Louise. It's so nice when you talk about such frank things, and it makes the chaos at my house, you know, all seem rather normal. Even if I had my mother-in-law over on the weekend telling me that it definitely wasn't. Anyway. No, I think it's just, yeah, hearing when you say about, you know, having that lady that was on the end of the phone for you with like how to do those things. I mean, you can really, and you embarking on going onto a car hire business when, you know, you don't know anything about car hire. Well, that's pretty much been what I've done with starting a magazine, because, you know, I didn't know how to publish, like who does really? But yeah, and it's been, in fact, a lot of you will know Claire from Grazie Her, because I'm sure that you're all subscribers and readers of Grazie Her magazine. And she came to Ladies' Day, which is how actually this whole thing started. So Ladies' Day is responsible for a lot of things in life, isn't it? But yeah, but meeting her and then having her at the end of the phone when, yeah, we're starting a magazine nationally here in New Zealand for women about rural life and not just farming, but more generally.
Louise, do you want to come back on that in terms of that question that Christy asked?
No, I need that. Yeah, I mean, the car hire thing, I just assumed you had to be some sort of super national business with some special, you know, 007 type license, and you're not, you're just a business. And when you register your car, instead of ticking private use, you say hire, self-drive. I mean, you know, I mean, you need extra insurance and everything. It did take a while to get insurance for such a small fleet, because most insurance companies minimum was 10. But we just, yeah, found the right people. Sometimes it took, you know, a few phone calls, but and RACQ are taking us in like a little, we've got our own special roadside assist thing set up. And so I think it's just, yeah, asking, and I'm like annoyingly curious. So yeah. I
understand that you're a significant businesswoman, and you are doing amazing things.
Oh, I don't know. I teach kids and do things, but thanks to Louise, I now have a business. Yeah, she's been, well, Ladies' Day kind of started it for me. I applied for the internship and I got it. Christy and everybody else. But yeah, and I went to Ladies' Day and I just thought, oh my God, I love photography. Like, I just love everything about it. And of course, I tried to start it at the start of COVID, and that didn't go so well. Anyway, so then I started making other things and doing other things that really took off, and now I have a website. Like, wow, thank you, Louise, for that too, and everything. But it just, like, I can really touch on Christy with the whole having someone to go to thing, because I had no idea. I like started a Facebook page and I was like, oh, I don't know, this is, you know, I don't need to register a business and I don't need an ABN. And then Louise started some online stuff, and, you know, she was like, oh my God, you need an ABN and you need this and you need that. And yeah, now I have it all. And yeah, thank you, Louise, for all of that. I think you're an absolute legend.
I've never known what I wanted to do when I grow up, whatever. But, you know, having researched it a little bit, they say just keep trying things. Also, you know, it's hard when you've got little ones as well, but I suppose dig deep into something, you know, one day, dig deep, you know, and see what is really involved in that. But I think, you know, once I had a discussion with another journalist one day, and she's ended up doing full circle because she went off on a tangent to try and do something. But you could just see that her passion is telling stories, getting stuff and smooshing it out the other side into something amazing, whether it was in a story format or in a, you know, newspaper sort of journalism format. And so you have to find it for you. But I think too, like I said before, many of us want to help people, and it's those mechanisms. So right now, if you're at home, you know, you have to find what's that passion in you that's been there all the time since you were little, probably. And so like the vehicle will change, like, you know, driving from Brisbane to Barkey, I might get on the bus or a helicopter or something, but I'm still going in that one direction. Well, that was accidentally quite deep.
You know, there's so many women in our community that have taken a long time to study, and that's okay. You know, you can take study breaks and pick it up and put it down when you want. And it is that path of discovery. You know, don't feel like it has to be something you know, finish and then get on to the next thing and become a psychologist. Like at the moment, you're just in that and, you know, curious phase like Louise was talking about. And if that's your passion, you know, something will probably come up in the conversations that you're having and what you're studying as well. And when you, I don't know, have children, it's off, we call it the pressure cooker time. So it's often a time where people are asking themselves a lot of questions. So, you know, what do they want to do? And, you know, after this, how are they going to manage their lifestyle? You know, how am I financially going to support my family? So it's a time of really asking yourself lots and lots of things. And many people are in that, you know, discovery phase. And it's, you know, it can be quite an exciting place to be because you're open and curious and you're not just down a particular path. Work out what you're willing to risk. You know, is it you're willing to step away from that job for 6 months, or, you know, do unpaid leave for a year to try and work out, you know, on top of maternity leave, what you want to do. If you do want to start a business, what's the amount of money you think you might need to start it? And if you need a certain amount of money just to have as a bit of a buffer, then do you need to stay in that job for a little bit longer to, you know, have that nest egg? And then I think, yeah, just work out your time and your risk profile, you know, how much time you're going to give yourself and you know, an amount of money, and what safety nets do you feel like you need around you to help you make those decisions. But I think it's really good to, I guess, be a bit objective around that, and also having those conversations with you know, your family as well, and how it's going to how they're going to support you in that.
I know of a couple of people who I'm working with at the moment who their full-time job is just not satisfying them, so they want to do something after hours that, you know, fires them up, that lights their soul and all that sort of thing. And I think a good way to get confidence is when you get the cash, you know, because that, yeah, you know, but so it is a hard position to be in. Yeah, and it's just, I think, yeah, step by step, but yeah, having a budget. So saying, well, okay, I've got this much I'm going to invest, or I'm going to loan, or get an overdraft or something, you know, something, and you have to be really certain, you know, get a financial advisor, but you can always start little with most things. You can start little while you've got your full-time job there to rely on. Yeah.
In our network that have, you know, left you know, a job, say at Queensland Health, and they've gone to work on their business for 1 or 2 years and it hasn't worked out, and they've realised it's not their passion, and, you know, they've actually gone back into those workplaces being entrepreneurs. because they know what it's like to run their own business. And then they also value things within those businesses like superannuation, training, the marketing team, the admin team, the finance team. You know, you're all of that when you're at your own business. So regardless, it is amazing professional development. And I think, you know, if everyone had the chance to just leave and go and do something that they were passionate about for a year and then go back into whatever role they were doing, gosh, imagine the, you know, solutions that we'd see for society. I think it's just, you learn so much.
Alanna, could you just explain what an entrepreneur is?
Oh, so they're people who I guess are sort of mavericks. They're really good at gathering people around them in a large organisation around an idea, getting funding for that, proving it, making it happen, making a change. And they aren't necessarily, you know, the Nuna Kahunas or the executive leadership. They are, you know, just in any job, but they're really great at just bringing people together and getting something to happen. And yeah, often they have been in small business from, you know, been in a long line of family that have had small businesses. So they're used to operating in that way.
Sarah, you say, how do you find out whether your small idea, is any good? And first of all, I think leave in terms of scale of idea, I think let other people think about that, because your idea might not be small, it might be a very big idea. So that's one issue, that we always think that, oh gosh, it's my idea, it must be only a small idea. It's possibly not. It could be amazing, it could be life-changing. Do you just test it and cross your fingers? Louise, I'll come to you on that one.
Okay. Look, it's really hard without knowing, I suppose, exactly what you're doing. So with photography, yep, I had some cameras, ended up having a lot more gear than I ever would have envisaged. And, you know, you've got to just test and see if people like your style, you know. With the car hire company, we didn't have any figures. We couldn't get any figures. So it was literally right. We said, okay, let's get 50 out of our investments and see what we can do. I mean, we've got secondhand cars, so they're not, you know, exorbitantly expensive cars. And we just thought, well, at worst, we just close the doors and sell the cars, you know. And then I've had another business on the back burner for ages that I just don't know how to get going, and I'm giving it one last push with some experts to get them in, and then I will close it, or you'll hear about it. So I think it's just, it's hard to know too much without exactly what sort of what it is. You know, there's ways you can get around if it's an app-based thing. There's ways you can get, you know, do things to just get started. And so, yeah, this is what I've been told for a long time. You know, just keep moving. Don't get stopped. You know, don't stop because you're afraid or anything. I've just decided, if it scares me, then I'm just going to keep going, because basically, yeah, doing a Facebook Live scares me. So it's just, you know, just keep moving on. But ask people too in your target market. You know, ring them, ask them, put it on social media, put it on your, you know, if you've got lots of friends on even Facebook, you could say, hey, I've been thinking about doing this. Is anyone kind of interested? And, you know, if you've got, I don't know, I don't have many followers on Facebook, many friends on Facebook, but, you know, you'll get some feedback then. And that's all you have to do to get started and see if people think it's a good idea. Don't necessarily think it's a bad idea, because everyone thought I was mad starting a car hire company. So it brought in $30,000 in October to December last year, which is fine by me. So that's good, you know, when it's not really taking too much work. And it's meant that we're contracting to the mechanic and to a lady to clean them all the time. So, you know, it wasn't set up to make us heaps of money. But yeah, so don't necessarily think if no one says yes, don't necessarily take that one group as the be all and end all.
Exactly what Louise is saying too, the minimal amount that you can just get something out there, see what people think. Again, you know, and this is, you know, a bit of a generalisation, but often women-owned businesses in our network tend to want everything to be 100% picture perfect, beautiful, and it you know, it means they've spent too much time and resources on it, and they're not getting it out to market as quickly as they should, because your customer will change what you do. So yeah, what's the minimum you can spend? Get it out as quickly as possible, and keep making decisions, like Louise said. And if you make the wrong decision, guess what? You make another decision, and it could be the right decision. So it's okay. Just keep making decisions.
Alanna, can I just very quickly come to you and talk about the program that you're doing that could be of benefit to everybody who's on tonight?
Yeah, so the Economic Security for Women Connection program is funded by the Australian Government Building Better Regions Fund. It's in partnership with the Federal Government Alliance, which is called Economic Security for Women, which Cathy and Of One Mind are also members of. But they represent 6 million women across Australia through membership organisations. And it's really exciting that this is the first time we've delivered the program in partnership with them. So it means any businesses that are part of this program, we can tap into that national network. So again, for us, it's always about trying to understand the female leader in the business and what she's trying to achieve and what her background and her story is. Then what she really wants the business to achieve over the next 12 months, not what I want, it's not what Joe Blogs down the road wants, just what she's looking to do. And then for us to wrap that support around her. So that is, you know, who does she need to know? Who do we need to talk to? Who have we got to introduce her to? How can we support her to achieve those goals that she has set herself? And we do that through quarterly teleconferences and, yeah, ongoing, you know, email communication. But I guess some of the outcomes from that program, you know, we've had regional businesses that have been part of international award programs. We've been able to get businesses through federal government programs, which are, you know, even more funding for their business. We've introduced them to collaborate with other brands so that they're growing their market and introducing them to new markets. But again, it's just really tailored around that individual and that business. So it's good because it means we get to know people really well and they get to know us. And, you know, like Cathy says, it's through that process that you're then able to help people in a really meaningful way. So, yeah, it runs for 1 year.
How do people do it? How can people get involved?
So I'll pop the link up again just in the chat. So all you need to do is log on, is visit that website. It's got a little form in there. It's very simple. You just have your name and your website, your postcode, and, you know, a little bit about, you know, why you want to be involved, and that's it. We didn't want to make it onerous for people. And we're also applying for additional funding to get more businesses through that program as well in this region. So I'll pop that in there again for everyone.
Louise, a final word from you. Is there anything that you would, any big thing that you would like to say to everybody who's been on tonight in terms of what they should think about in terms of their own business journey?
I think, you know, I'm so guilty of it, just wasting time there. I'm not sure what to do, but you know, and just do it. Ring someone and say, are you interested in this? Bang, you'll have an answer. And I love Peter Drucker, an old marketer, and he's got this wonderful quote about, I got it somewhere, people who don't take risks generally make about 2 mistakes a year, and people who do take risks generally make about 2 mistakes a year. And I just love that because we get so wound up in here. And yeah, it's feet walking, you know, yeah.
I'm going to quote Rebel Black from The Rural Woman. She's an amazing individual, and I would really encourage you all to join her supportive network, because as you're on this journey of discovery, there are women from regional and rural Australia who are all in the same position as you, and they're there helping each other all figure it out. So yeah, amazing resource. But, you know, she says, you know, bloom where you are planted. And I just love that. You know, we've all got it within ourselves to create whatever we want in whatever way we want to do it. And we can build that success in however, you know, we want to do it. And yeah, so yeah, bloom where you're planted. Thanks to Rebel Black, the Rural Woman.
Thank you both for this tonight, and thank you all for being here. I'd like to finally just thank Channel Country Ladies Day for making all this happen and all the work that you do. As you all know, there's going to be more series like this for this year's Channel Country Ladies Day, but it's all going to be back again next year, and we'll be announcing as well a significant regional project that we'll be doing next year, bringing more WOW conversations to the regions, which will include, I hope, doing another partnership with Channel Country Ladies Day. So keep following us on the wowaustralia.com website on the well, where there'll be more of these conversations. You can get many more resources, including those from Femeconomy and other amazing women helping women. And please keep in touch with us, and please keep your ideas coming. And I know that it is the really important thing, I think we feel, is that the more linkages that we all have, whether we're working in the city or working in the regions or working in very remote areas, isolation is something that everybody is feeling now. Isolation is an issue for us all. And I think the more we can all work together and all share everything that we've got with each other, then the stronger we're all going to be, and that we're all going to get through all this. So thank you, Christy, for organising it all, and good night, everybody.